Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dev Diary. Today we are moving with trepidation as we continue to work on our Plants vs. Zombies Cross Vampire Survivors mashup. Now in case you missed it, last time we added an entirely new system to our mashup to tie both experiences together. This came in the form of a computer that will allow the player to purchase and sell plants and basically help integrate an ever-evolving experience, which we will be continuing today, though I should mention that I'm currently recording this before the previous episode has even been released. So I have no idea how well these creative liberties have been received. Regardless, consider leaving a like if you enjoy the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Make sure notifications are enabled so you don't miss the next episode. And with that, let's get to today's session. We continue with the additions of environmental features with the fog from Plants vs. Zombies. A new fog object was created to handle all fog-related shenanigans. On creation, 3 surfaces are generated. The first contains our fog layer, the second deletes fog from the fog layer, and the third actually makes the magic happen. The fog effect itself is generated using particles and then is saved as a sprite to maintain consistency, since gamemaker's handling of surfaces is still really not very good. The fog object is then set to its own room layer, which utilizes gamemaker's built-in heatwave effect to give it some motion. Ultimately, this allows us to create a fog effect that is, well, passable. The motion may need to be toned down or removed since it can get a little nauseating, and also the effect has its drawbacks using particles, mostly when it comes to the alpha channel limitations of surfaces. But much like Plants vs. Zombies, using plants such as the blower can quote-unquote delete portions of the fog based on their position, which is a great way to transition into our next anti-fog plant and the newest addition to the roster, the Plantern. For the time being, it shares the same code as the likes of the walnut, with the added conditional of removing nearby fog when placed. Along with the removal of fog is the usage of the plant as a light source, which grants the player a much larger radius of light than, say, the torch would. Now, the addition of the plant also brings up an interesting issue that we'll address later, but for now, let's move on to our next addition, the Sunshroom. The Sunshroom is like the sunflower, only it's meant to be used at night and has its sun worth increased over time. So a new variation of the sun pickup was also added that now accounts for half the worth of the original. And with this addition came another change in the base gameplay. Sunflowers now produce sun at all times throughout the day/night cycle, only now they produce the smaller sun pickups during the night. And the Sunshroom would be the inverse of this, producing smaller pickups during the day and full size during the night. This change is necessary given the current approach to the gameplay loop. If the goal is to create a world that is in constant motion, denying any sense of progress due to bad RNG, for example, seemed like a bad idea. Perhaps not the best direction to take things, and we may need to walk it back, but for now it felt like a good compromise, so let's move on to the next addition. Shrooms were added to further make sure that plant placement still worked, and thankfully it does, and with the addition of the sea spore also gave us our first projectile that slows down over time, emulating the limited distance of the sea shroom's projectile capabilities. The final new addition made this session was the winter melon. As per the original version, the winter melon basically behaves exactly as the melon bolt does, only it creates a frozen melon instead. Said frozen melons, which are yet another unique projectile, also deal an AoE effect, only instead of damage it's the freeze effect used with the ice room. And to wrap things up this session were some additions to the computer. The purchase screen now works, allowing the player to spend money on seeds, which are added to the player's seed list. The sell screen was also updated, but doing so brought something important to my attention. We were going to need a way to determine which plant the player wants to sell, to avoid selling the wrong plant, especially when they own more than one, which ends up working out anyway, as somewhere along the line the plant inventory system broke. Now, I have a few ideas in mind, but I'd love to get some feedback on this one, so let me know in the comments. Now, speaking of things that need work, the addition of the Plantern brought up an interesting issue. If the Plantern is eaten, should the fog return? My gut is telling me no, because that just adds to the tedious micromanagement we're kind of trying to avoid. However, lighting is also removed when a Plantern is destroyed, so should they be treated the same? Maybe it would be more fair to simply create patches of fog around the play area and instead of the entire thing being fogged up? I would love to get some feedback on this as well. So please, if you have any preferences or opinions on what you prefer as a player, leave your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you'd like to help support the channel and help me keep making videos, I'm now on Patreon. But with that said, brings us to the end of today's Dev Diary, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.